Thank you for joining us. I'm Rebecca Berger. This is Justice for All, where you get to hear from legal professionals in the surrounding area. Tonight we have a really amazing guest, Orlando Rivera from ASPIRA Business Brokers and Advisors. Orlando, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me.
I'm honored.
Look, I love when people have such a fascinating career, and you've had one because before law school, you had a whole career. Tell us a little bit about that.
The career before law? So I've done a lot of different things. I was a very entrepreneurial person, I probably at birth. By the time I was 19, I was an artist. Almost got picked up by Marvel Comics on a new comic title called Strikers. I was going to be an inker, but that never happened.
To be like an actual comic book.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
I was licensed DMT in high school. I was accepted to medical school. It was an accelerated program with UMD&J in Montclair State. I turned that down. I worked at Lockheed Martin out of the summer out of high school. Went to school engineering at Rutgers University. Did a lot of different things. I was a barber. I taught myself I was barbering in freshman year in undergrad. So yeah, I had probably 7 different careers, I think, by the time I was 20, at least. I'm the eldest of 4 of siblings. And I didn't come from a really, comfortable background. So I had to, at a very young age, take responsibility for my younger siblings. And in fact, by the time I got to law school, my grandmother was living with me. She was like at the ripe age of 70 and taking care of an elementary brother in elementary school and a sister in middle school.
Wow. That's a lot of responsibility.
I got into law school by chance. I never thought about law, to be honest with you.
So how did you end up in it by chance?
Yeah, so I think your show addresses this issue, but prior I just assumed lawyers are professional liars. Politicians were well, maybe they were the professional liars and the attorneys were sharks. Right, in the shark suits. I wasn't really impressed with the profession. But around, of course, when I went to law school, it was around 2001 when I got interested in it, and it was just right after Bush v. Gore.
Okay.
I was enthralled, enamored by the idea that the Supreme Court had an impact on the election, the process of counting votes in Florida or not counting, or putting stays on various counties and what have you. It was very interesting. And I realized that these very few black-robed individuals around the table had a say, for better, worse, or indifferent in terms of the outcome of the presidency. And I just knew that I wanted to make an impact in the world. And I was just curious. So I thought maybe there's something here. I happened to be working on campus and right across from the law school. So who was parking at the law school other than, quite a number of actually movers and shakers, but one of them was Camille Andrews, who was the Dean of Admissions at the time. Yeah. And so I, just asked, hey, Dean Andrews, I got a question. I'm just curious about law school. I just wanted to ask a couple questions.
She's great.
She is phenomenal. But in any event, I was just curious. And, she just kind of pulled me along, if you can imagine that. Yeah. So I did everything she said to do. I literally, LSAT prep. She told me exactly what to do, her program, and I did it every day for however long it took. And she said, look, you get this score, I'll get you a full ride. And I did. I hit it exactly on the number.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, but I also had another option. So while there's another influential person, Dr. Gloria Bonilla-Santiago, who's a distinguished professor of public policy there. And she's the founder of Leap Academy Charter School, the Center for Strategic Urban Community Leadership, which actually sprung many different programs including Leap. While working there, I happened to know her, and I offered to volunteer and either do a martial arts program, teach a martial arts program, or I think it was a track or cross-country program for the kids. It was only 2 grades, 9th and 10th, and they were growing a grade every year. So I thought, I'm sure they're lacking in some programs, and they're Camden students, and I'm from the area, so I just offered. I said, would you be interested? And I can help out, whatever you need help with. And she was like, oh my God, you're too smart for this, job. What are you doing? Let me get you a job. I became a state employee at Rutgers University, which meant also that I had 100% tuition remission paid for.
Wow.
So I worked full time. I went to school at night, 4-year program, right? Nighttime program rather than 3 years. And at the time, if you recall, the night classes ended at 11 o'clock at night or something like that.
Yes.
So I would literally have dinner at midnight.
Yep.
My grandmother would have food, laid out and that kind of thing. So that's how I got into it. And it was really, again, on that motivation of, looking for ways to make a difference in the world. And I realized that this profession had a kind of social class or economic class, whatever, if you will, that allowed them to do certain things. And that's what got me in. Once I was in, I didn't know what I was going to do with it, to be honest with you. I was looking at different areas of law. One of the areas of law that I thought I might have been very interested in was child abuse and neglect issues, because personally I grew up in that in that world and everyone around me. My father was an alcoholic, verbally abusive, among other things. Mother was unfortunately substance abuse. The mid 80s were.
So you had a really good understanding of children in that perspective and being able to help in that area.
If you want to be an advocate for someone, and if you want to be an advocate for those who are underserved and truly underprivileged, I can't think of any group that's more so underprivileged or underrepresented, if you will, than children. Why?
Yes.
They can't vote, so there's no one really pandering to them. They have no money, so they really can't support anything or anyone. And unfortunately, in the New Jersey state, generally the Constitution and also in the New Jersey state constitutional laws and our policy decisions in the state of New Jersey really leads towards leaving the children with their parents as much as possible, regardless of how bad they are.
And unfortunately, those children don't have a choice. They don't have a choice in any of this. They don't get a choice in, their socioeconomic, circumstances, or what school they're maybe going to, or what substance abuse issues their parents may have. That's where they're stuck.
Right. It's sad. I mean, it really is sad to see some of these situations. I mean, I wouldn't even get into that one.
You being able to pull yourself out of that is so inspiring for other small children who watch and know there's something more than this, which is why I'm a big believer in community programs and that kind of thing, because to give hope, to understand there's something more, and you did that. So being able to have that vision and to know there's something more is important. So why didn't you end up going into that advocacy route?
So another area that's related to that is education.
Okay.
And I was thinking about going into education law. Again, I was just really trying to figure out.
Where do you want to go?
I had this opportunity. I'm not going to say no. I went after it. So that's my first tip, right, for anyone. If the door opens up, go through it. It's probably easier to just say yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy. It was really hard. But once you make a decision and you just follow through, you don't have to think about it anymore, right? You just survive.
Yes.
And then eventually you find out you can thrive,
Yeah.
right? It's not as, you get numb to it, you get accustomed to that routine.
Yeah.
Whatever that routine, especially with, the practice of law, I think it really prepped that. So education was another area, and again, I was working at Rutgers University, so one of the things I was doing was professional development training for educators. And at Dr. Santiago's office, I was a program associate for several different leadership programs, but I was also facilitating running a program called the Teacher Development Performance Institute, and they were focusing on providing professional development to educators in really, again, underprivileged, underserved school districts. It was federally funded, and I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the impact of working with educators, helping them to make education more interesting, more engaging, to help bring test scores up. But more importantly than the test scores were really the impact that it would leave, I think, in the student, to love learning and to make learning lifelong. So I had an opportunity, oddly enough, it was another opportunity that opened up. Put my letter of resignation at Rutgers University in my fall semester of the last year of law school. So I was going to give law practice, or I was going to give it a shot. But the morning I put that letter of resignation in, within an hour, half hour, I got an email from a friend who I used to work at Rutgers University, and he just asked, it was a year since I talked to him. He, just emailed me, asked for my number, and asked to catch up. I said, no problem. He said, he was asking what you were doing in the email. I said, well, if you really want to know, I just resigned today, and sure, we can talk anytime you like.
I'm free.
And he called me literally like at lunch. So I was heading out, going to get my law school books at this point, prepare for class. And I'm wrapping up at this point. So I got a call from him. He said he was really busy, and he created another professional program in the subject area of history education. And I joined him, and it was fun. I literally helped build his company. It was private enterprise at that point, private business. And I helped him working out of his kitchen table with his family. His daughter was coming home from school, and his wife having lunch and just having chit chat. That was the environment we're in, just getting started. And I helped him grow his business into a multi-million-dollar company with employees over 5 states, clients from coast to coast. We work with school districts and contracting with them. So we had, California was a big district, a big state. We had a lot of contracts, Texas to North Dakota to Florida, you name it. So it was fun. I was, I guess, the VP of the company, the right-hand man, and I just enjoyed, again, making another impact. So I did it through, and we had a lot of surveys and results from, proven results from the programs. So I was VP of marketing and sales, and I was the guy pretty much developing resources, having an impact on that, and doing professional, traveling the country. I was making probably more money than I would, if I was an associate or even as a partner of a law firm. And I was like, I get to call my hours and do whatever I want to do.
Yeah,
So that was
great.
entrepreneurship, the benefits of that 101. So that's what happened then.
The opportunity arises and you just take advantage of it, which is so amazing, because not everybody would always trust themselves to do that. They're in law school, they make the assumption that you have to go into a career of law and practice law as a traditional attorney, as if that is the only option. It's very interesting to me. You said, hey, you know what? I'm going to sit at this kitchen table and let's build this business. Just, look, it's a risk, and it really paid off.
It really did. I offered him, I said, look, I want to give the law thing a part-time effort, and I'm already in law school part-time, if you will, nighttime. So I'll give you part-time, but it just picked up so fast that we were off the races. And it was interesting. Alfred DiMartini is an alumni of Rutgers University School of Law, Camden campus. And he was the owner of the DMA parking lot right across from law school. I was working for him. And he gave me great advice. He said, look, when he was talking about the law school, he said, there's 2 things you should probably consider. One is, depending on what you're trying to do, being around the right people is important. So sometimes you can be around that person for just one conversation. You got everything you need to know to understand how they did something or how they got to where they got to. And the other thing was seek the education. It was particularly talking about the law school, because I was asking about the option. And he said, look for the things or skills that's going to develop you in life or in your career that can be applicable across the board. And he did advise that law school education, which I think is true, law school education did provide a real good training in thinking like a lawyer, which is, thinking very logically, but also persuasively, and really being able to see things from all perspectives. In the actual experience, right, you have to manage time. You have to manage a reading load, a workload of reading, writing, and communication skills. All of those are absolutely applicable to anything you do.
True.
Period. Right. So I definitely used it in my entrepreneurial experience, and I did use it even as kind of executive, I guess, of a small business in a lot of ways, with legal issues, whether it was intellectual property issues, whether there's even some litigation issues. I didn't enjoy that, but
So you have ASPIRA Business Brokers and Advisors. So tell me about what you do.
I guess I have to share a little bit of the transition, I guess.
Absolutely.
So what I thought, I took that company as far as I could, and I thought, I'd take a year of sabbatical. In education, that's what you call it.
Okay.
So you take a year off, you don't work.
Yeah.
that's what you call it. So I was going to either travel to Brazil or to Costa Rica or something like that.
Something. I'm going to do something to inspire myself.
As a single guy, it's like, I could do that, right? Just travel and do the backpack thing at a later age. It's like a midlife crisis
at 30, a young age.
At 30. I think at 31. I did well enough, so I could do that. And so, but it didn't happen. So I fell in love and settled down, and that was it. So I set up my law practice out of in my home. I was a solo practitioner for a little bit, but it was not really something I was excited about. So again, that was one of those things I just did because I could, and I would love to help entrepreneurs. And I was doing business matters, contract issues, and estate planning. Interesting kind of, there's a sweet spot in building wealth, right? Or managing that as an entrepreneur. So I did that, but I finally got the nagging desire I had my real estate license before that. And I just, I let the ego go because I didn't want anyone. This is another thing I think I would like to share for most people to get over that fear of being judged, to do the things you want to do. And I really much prefer to be a deal maker in real estate, residential, commercial. I didn't even know about business brokering at the time, than practicing law. Like it wasn't my thing to stand behind the desk and sit behind the desk and just look at a computer and dot the I's, cross the T's. It wasn't my thing. And I didn't like the relationship really of counting. Someone's looking at the minutes and just sweating bullets in terms of how much it's going to cost them. I didn't like that. Tried to do a lot of flat fee cost stuff. But I was probably doing more pro bono than anything else.
You're like, this maybe isn't my thing.
This is not my thing. So I finally gave over to my fear and just did something I loved. And I went to real estate and did pretty well, pretty decent. It was only a couple months when I was picked up by someone who offered me, who heard about my experience and my background and was really impressed and asked me to be on his direct board or whatever of an education group for business owners and entrepreneurs. And as I was doing that, the guy suggested business brokering because he was doing it. He was part of the office at Tannenbaum. And I didn't know what the heck that was. I kind of joked and said, "Are you insulting me right now? Like, what is that? Like, why are you calling me a business broker?" So I found out what it was, and I was all in. Since I was a teenager, I remember reading Think and Grow Rich, a great book for any entrepreneur, especially real estate investors. I had it as a teenager. And one of the ways that it describes of creating wealth is through real estate. It's an interesting phenomenon in the U.S. history, American history, of having ownership of real estate and how that's built many millionaires back in the day, or billionaires, along with building businesses and ongoing concerns. Those are my two favorite asset classes of generating wealth. It's owning a business, growing that business, right? A Bill Gates kind of starting something from, building it, right? Or Elon Musk or whatever it is. And of course the real estate entrepreneurship. So I bit, and I was in, and it was funny, the real estate broker that I was taking my license out of said, this was right around after 2008, right? So it was around 2010, whatever.
Which is hard because that was just right after the bubble burst.
It was really bad. And I said, I didn't care. I said, you know what? It doesn't matter. I know I'm all in, and I'm going to be successful because I'm all in. I was passionate about it. And I was. So that's how I got into business brokering. I was with Tannenbaum, and it was Meta at the time. They were originally Tannenbaum Alaska in 1946. They changed later in 97, something like that, to Tannenbaum ALOC, then Tannenbaum Meta 2000-something. And so I was there a couple years after that. And so what happened there eventually was I became the broker's broker. I was running the company. I was the director of operations and sales. I was sitting in the president's seat, the owner's seat, running the company, hiring, firing, recruiting people, training people, all that good stuff. And unfortunately, people play things maybe the way they shouldn't play it. And so it was sold to someone else, and that was fine with me. I decided it was probably better for me to move on. And I recognized with ASPIRA Business Brokers and Advisors, talking about today, when I formed ASPIRA Business Brokers and Advisors, I recognized that business brokers as a whole aren't really serving small business owners well. There are many out there that call themselves a business broker, but they're not really professionally trained or don't have the competency, if you will, to actually deliver on that. Maybe a real estate agent, they really don't typically know financial numbers. They don't know how to value the business, the cash flow of a business. They typically deal with real estate and furniture and that kind of stuff, right? Like it's those tangible assets, not goodwill. And I remember looking in the MLS on, businesses for sale, at least dubbed businesses for sale, and I was looking at 1 year period. I saw about 103 businesses for sale. I think only one sold in that given year.
Wow.
So I knew what was going on, and again, I just thought that it was time to provide more value to small business owners in this particular arena, and it's so fragmented that eventually I would like to just suck the air out of it in the whole space and really make sure we provide a high standard of service for small business owners who I think deserve it. I think they work really hard to build their business, to provide for their family. They take on that risk. They love what they do, whether they're a baker, a barber, salon, doesn't matter, right? They just love their trade. And I think they're making the world a better place by having those amenities and those services to the community and to society as a whole. But unfortunately, which also an advocacy, it pisses me off that small business gets a lot of lip service. A lot of lip service. Oh, they're the backbone of our economy, But unfortunately, do they get the same tax
I was
incentives?
just going to say, are they going to get the same benefits as a larger company?
Do they get funds, the same amount of funds to build buildings, beautiful, monuments to politicians and to, those business owners and corporations, and to their projects that they've left behind? No. And so that really bothers me. So I really want to, we kind of have a tagline now that's big business results for small business. We bring a big business caliber of expertise to small business owners in a way that makes it very affordable for them.
So what would your day-to-day look like when you're advising someone in a business? What could an average day look like?
Yeah, so we, as a business broker, we do sell-side representation and buy-side representation. What that means is, on the sell side, we represent business owners who are looking to retire or exit for some reason. We refer to it as an exit, meaning to sell to a third party. Typically I am fielding calls about what their value of the business might look like. Are they prepared to sell? I had a meeting this week with a business owner, and because of COVID, they happen to be out of their lease, but they're going year by year now, and they have a great rate, but if they're looking to sell, they're not sure, should I keep the lease? Should I get a new lease, say a 5-year term with the two options?
Who knows right now, yeah.
Because who knows? Or should I leave it to the buyer because they want to negotiate that? Well, it's kind of two parts to the answer to that question, but those are the kind of things I do. And then the buy side, there are people like today, someone looking for a manufacturing company, pharmaceutical manufacturing company. Anybody has one, call me. And they're just trying to figure out how can they go about do that. So we can help on the buy side. Just like we help the sellers value the business, we can represent them to put in the market confidentially so that no one knows it's for sale, not to disrupt the business. The employees don't want to freak out.
No,
customers
because
may not come
they
back.
know, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, we can package it in a way that we understand what's the ideal buyer that will find the best value for it, so that they're in a position to get the maximum value for the business. On the buy side, we can help in the entire stage, at any point in the stage of the process. So I've had buyers contact me and say, look, I've been working with this business owner, I'm trying to buy. I need some help at this point. One had 4 years of effort into trying to make it work. And so we'll help with everything from sourcing to find the deal, search for it, to qualifying that deal, to getting on the LOI, to doing the due diligence to confirm that it validates, it really does the cash flow that the seller was saying that it would provide, so the value matches up. Getting financing for the business acquisition, and facilitating all of the moving parts with attorneys, accountants, whoever is involved, landlords, even third-party approvals with franchisors if it's a franchise-run business, you name it. So even government approval sometimes, just to bring it to closing. 3 major services. We do agency service through business brokering, mergers and acquisitions, 20 million in revenue below. They could be independently owned businesses. They could be franchised-owned businesses, franchisee-owned businesses. They could be brick and mortar, or they could be online businesses. Online businesses include e-commerce, SaaS, you name it, right? They kind of purely live online. So we can work with all of them. But that's the business brokerage as agency service. We also have the real estate brokerage. That's an agency representation. So we can represent sellers and buyers, or landlords and tenants in residential issues, commercial real estate, and even investment real estate. And then the third is investment advisory. So it kind of fits into that ASPIRA Advisors kind of category,
together,
right?
yeah.
So we're ASPIRA Business Brokers and Advisors now. It's kind of a little long-winded. So we can shrink it down to ASPIRA Advisors, and it kind of encompasses those 3 major services. And eventually, considering my background, we'll have an education component. So there'll be an education offering that'll go with ASPIRA Advisors to educate someone if they're considering becoming a business owner. Do they want to, they're not sure if it's for them. Are they a good fit? Could they be successful at it? To help them the buy side, help them come along. To even sellers, to help them figure out, how to prepare for the sale eventually.
It's just amazing that your experience, the wide variety of experience has brought you around to this company, which really is an all-encompassing so many different areas. If someone wanted to contact you to speak to you about any of these areas, how would they do so?
Well, you can simply search my name, Orlando Rivera, online, connect on LinkedIn, because I think we do business person to person. But you can also obviously find the website, aspirabrokers.com. If anyone who's interested in building wealth through private assets, private ownership of cash flowing real estate or businesses, I'm the person to call to and help find that deal or sell that, asset that you're trying to get out to and move on to the next big thing.